Hello to everybody who sanitizes their kitchen equipment thoroughly. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here. If you're not a fan of the intro, I'll just implore you to check out beautifulanonymous.com if you want bonus stuff. And if you want to skip right to the phone call, skip about 5 minutes ahead. Thanks. Hi everybody, it's Chris Gethard welcoming you to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. And I have to say, this is the time of life where I've realized that what this show can really provide. Because I'd like to think we provide you with interesting conversations on a week-to-week basis. I'd like to think that we give you some things to think about. We expand access to the human narrative, story by story. We let you in with people with different backgrounds, different interests, different life paths, different experiences. That's our go-to on a week-by-week basis for almost 500 episodes now. We've been aiming to do all those things, and I think, honestly, kind of nailing it. But I do also know that it's official. We've somehow avoided it on the show. There's been so little talk of politics. Usually it flares up in presidential election years here in the States. It hasn't now. But I'll tell you, I'm officially listening to way too many political podcasts. I'm reading too many political news sites. I am reading political stuff on Twitter, which is actual hell. It's actual hell. And here I am in New Jersey, where it's been so nice. The weather's been so lovely, out of season. The leaves are changing. It's still warm. I could be going on hikes. I could be seeing nature in all its beauty. I could be letting it blow my mind. And instead, I am listening to every second of Pod Save America, a podcast that does not need any plugs by me, and that I both get so much out of and also think, how do I want to phrase it with love? I love that show so much. I also am aware that those fucking know-it-alls know more than me. Anyway, I don't know why I'm besmirching them. I've met John Lovett, good, really good, funny guy. But man, that show stresses me out in like 5 different ways, is the point. That being said, one thing that I'm really happy about with Beautiful Anonymous is if you just need to escape for a little while, you need something that lets you in with another person, something that pulls your face away from your phone, away from the newscasts, away from those racing, intrusive thoughts about how things are going. We got you covered. And man, this week, dive in deep, because there will be distractions. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right out of the gate that I'm thrilled about the vibe of this caller. Instantly, I think you'll hear it. She's cool, laid back, has a good laugh right away. And then when you hear what she talks about, it's something that we all know happens. We are all aware that after a baby is born, there is stuff left behind. And different people make different choices in regards to what you do with that stuff. But what we don't always think about is that if you are someone who wants to do specific things with this stuff, who is it that you call? The person you call, it turns out, is this week's caller, who is going to tell us, at times with an incredible sense of detail, what happens to all this stuff left behind in a birthing room if you call someone with her skill set and abilities. Anyway, I am so thrilled for you to hear this. If you need a laugh, if you need a distraction, if you need, for some people, honestly, maybe a little bit of a gross out, depending on how you feel about the imagery of things like this. But if you just want to turn off your brain for a while and hear from someone else who's got a great laugh, a great vibe, and who does some things that are ultra specific and can talk about them in great detail, man, do I have a good hour for you. Thanks to everybody who signed up at beautifulanonymous.com for our bonus material. I mean, this week, as much as any, you're going to want to hear more from this caller. We've also got our bonus call coming out for the people at the upper tiers of the bonus content. We do follow-ups with past callers. About to drop a follow-up with our old friend the adult who likes to dress as a baby and wear diapers sometimes from 2023. It's a good time. It's a good time to sign up. As of this recording, let's see how many people we have. It's really slowed down. I would love to get to 1,000. That was a nice round number. Right now we've got 931, only a handful the past couple of weeks, but I know times are tight, and we might all be waiting to see how much disposable income we have post-election. I get it. It's end of the year. You got to save up for Christmas gifts. I get it. So many reasons. But if you are interested, we are at beautifulanonymous.com. Thanks so much, everybody. You're all the best. Thanks for listening. This call's going to make you, I don't even know. It's just going to make you feel a lot of things. Depends on who you are and how you feel. Anyway, enjoy it.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Is this Chris?
This is Chris.
Oh, it's a real person, not a recording.
No longer recording.
How are you?
No longer me being like, hey, everybody, if we're not talking yet, it's probably not happening, so try again another day. It's the real guy. Although imagine if this was all recorded.
Crazy. Oh, that would be interesting. But no, this is crazy. This doesn't feel real right now. I feel like I am speaking to a recording. I've been listening since the beginning. I've been trying to get on for so many years.
I'm glad it's finally happening.
Yeah,
thanks for listening.
Me too. Yeah, during that stint of what was her name, library girl with all of her friends getting through without even listening to this show. Parade girl. I was thinking of library boy.
One of her friends was, of course, one of Parade girl's friend, library boy, who is not a boy, is a girl describing a library boy, which longtime listeners of the show understand exactly what we mean. Any new listeners are like, what the hell? What?
I know.
It's all good.
It's meta, I think. Is that with meaning within a meaning? I don't know.
Yes.
Again, very nervous, trying to calm myself. And
you're doing great. Your vibes are impeccable. I already typed to Andrea. Great vibes on this call. Already typed that in the document we share.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you. I think I got patched through today because of my hook. I really was telling the truth, but I told Andrea that I was just about to start processing a placenta because I do placenta encapsulation. So, yeah.
Wait, hold on. What? What is this? Can I guess? Can I guess what this means?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Placenta encapsulation, my guess would be that there are some people who, after they give birth, they consume the placenta. And I've heard that it will sometimes be pressed into a pill. Do you press placentas into pills?
I press placentas into pills. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Is that a full-time gig?
Interested. It's supplemental. Haha. Because supplements, those are supplements. Anyway.
So this is your side gig.
But I'm a birth doula.
A birth doula? Oh, nice.
It's kind of just like a conglomerate of things that I do to make money, to make this work full time. So, but I love it. I love placenta encapsulation. Like I said, I'm a birth doula. I do postpartum as well. And sometimes I photograph the births that I support. So, yeah.
Wild. So I have so many questions, if I may. First thing I want to say is the relationship between people giving birth and the birth doula. I learned, and you know this, but they don't know this, but you know this. It's really intense and weird because you meet beforehand And your birth
Yeah.
doula goes like, cool, so what's your plan? How do you want to how do you think you want things to go? Great. We can make this happen, that happen. Okay, you call me at this time. If I were you, you might want to think about adjusting this or that. Or I've actually been part of deliveries at that hospital, and you might need to keep in mind X, Y, and Z. Like, super valuable information.
Yeah.
But then in reality, what happens is somebody's water breaks or somebody finds out that they're going to be induced. And you get a panicky call, and it's like you have these weird nights in your life where it's like, I'm on my way. Like, our birth doula was like, Hallie's water broke, and it was like, I called this woman named Dee Dee, and we'd met her a couple times, once, maybe twice. And then I called Dee Dee. I'm like, it's going down. She's like, I'll be right there. And then she got there.
Wait, you said this is your birth doula or your doctor?
Our birth doula. We called her.
Oh, you had a doula?
We had a doula.
I knew that.
We had a doula, yeah. And
That's awesome.
So, and I'll walk you through what happened to me, and you can tell me how common it is, because I bet it's really common.
Yeah.
And I do want to say this.
Having a birth doula?
Well, the experience we had at the hospital, because everybody at the hospital was great. I want to be clear. Everybody was at the hospital was great, but they got jobs to do, and they've been through it a million times, and this is our first time doing it, and it's scary as hell. Here's the thing that I bet happens more common than people want to admit right now is we look back on it and realize that, we had been going to see the OBGYN, build in the birth plan. She was a specialist in birth. She was part of a small cohort of doctors. And the whole thing was like, so if it's not a day that I'm on, someone else will be on, and blah, blah, blah. But we realized in a way that was kind of sad to realize after the fact, she probably understood that there was a very limited chance she was going to be present for our birth when she was the one doing our sonograms and all this stuff. And our understanding, was thinking probably a little bit more old school. Like my parents' generation, the hospital that I was born at was, a 3 or 4 minute drive from my house. And the doctor who delivered my brother and I lived in the same neighborhood as my parents. He actually wasn't even the doctor who was on duty to deliver me. He just was the neighborhood doctor who knew my family and stopped by to see how she was doing, and then realized that there were some complications. He took over. That's that old school neighborhood doctor. We realized, our doctor's not coming, and she probably was never coming. Like there was probably like a 10 to 15% chance that things would work out that she was on.
Yeah.
Our doula is who we have. Yeah. Our doula is the person we've talked to before, who we have any sort of relationship with, and the nurses, God bless them, have a million other things to do. They don't necessarily have all the time in the world to answer questions or to necessarily stick to your birth plan. And our doula, we called her, there was some stress with our intake nurse in specific. And Hallie was going, I'm feeling really bad. I feel really bad about how this is going. And then I'm hearing that, and I'm trying to be a protective new father / husband in this moment of truth, going, how do I protect my wife? I don't know what the hell's going on either. And I got good old Dee Dee, the doula, on the phone, and she was there in like 20 minutes.
Heck yeah, Dee Dee.
And then the nurses, in a way that I both respected, I caught them basically saying, well, I got a doula here, so now we have to deal with that. And I went, are you
kidding?
I don't love hearing that from the nurses, but it also makes me feel like we have somebody here whose main goal is to have our backs. And I felt great about our birth doula. I'll stop talking. I'm talking too much.
No. I love that you have this like lived experience of having a doula. So you have your experience, but I don't love that the nurses weren't doula positive and doula friendly, because that rarely is my experience with the nurses around here. I live in a very progressive metro area, if you will. So I have mostly positive experiences with nurses, but again, with like the OB, that's awesome. I'm glad that they were great and present in the moment. That's when
everything wound up being great. I think we just had some desire to be like, hey, can someone slow down and answer some questions and read our birth plan? And they were like, we have 150 other things to do and so many other patients here. And it was like, we just need somebody who's going to just be on our side. And our doula was that.
Yeah, they're overpopulated. They're understaffed. They book way too many births, like back to back. And the nurses, they're trying to do what they can, but they're also like they have to operate in the medical industrial complex where they're kind of like, they put birth on a timeline too. So, yeah, just a lot of pressure from like the higher ups to have a quote unquote like textbook speedy delivery. And if it's not speedy, then it's a cesarean. And yeah, I feel like that's very common.
And then you're here for this super intense moment in someone's life. And then you might get hired as their post-birth doula, but in reality, more often than not, you're there. Like this woman, Dee Dee, got us through that really tough stretch. And then when Cal was born, it was also nuts. All these memories are coming back. Hallie was like, my back hurts. And I'm trying to rub her back and just nothing happens. And then Dee Dee is like, let me try. And the birth doula who's done this before just like honestly touched Hallie a certain point on her ribs. And Hallie, you just saw Hallie go, like all this physical relief from someone who knew what they were doing and exactly what she needed. And then like Cal is born. There were some scary moments along the way where he was crushing his own umbilical cord and the doula kept us calm, Dee Dee, the doula. And then he's born and then we go to cut the umbilical cord and I cut it and she's like holding my hands to show me where to place the things to cut it. And then, and then guess what? Never saw her again ever.
What happened?
And then we all move on with our lives.
Was this like a privately hired doula? Like every doula has their own ways of operating. I was just curious, like if you got her through a hospital program or if she was privately hired.
We hired her privately. She actually might have come to our house once or twice afterwards. Now that I'm thinking of it, we wound up hiring a different post-birth doula. Anyway, I'm talking way too much this one.
No, I love it. I'm really glad that you're fired up and excited to talk about my profession and the intricacies of birth and all of it. But yeah, I was going to say like most doulas do like, if they're privately hired, like 1 to 2 postpartum visits just to see how everyone is doing and getting you connected with like resources and just processing the birth story and holding space for that. Yeah. But do you guys like check in? Does she check in every once in a while? I know Cal was like, how old is he? Like 4 or 5?
He's 5. No, she doesn't check in. I don't know if this is just a New York City thing. Like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Glad the baby's here safe. Moving on with life. Yeah. And I don't know if it was on us. Maybe we didn't do a good job either. Who knows?
Hey, I guess it goes both ways. But I know like after like postpartum, it's just a lot to keep up with interactions and your relationships, and sometimes things just kind of taper off, and that's fine. I know like for some of my clients, I've become really good friends with some of my clients, which I'm so fortunate of.
That's rad.
But some other clients, like, we just never talk again. And sometimes like I attribute that, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but I do think sometimes if a client has a traumatic birth experience, they sometimes associate their birth doula with that kind of their experience and those emotions around it. So I don't ever take anything personally if the contact does kind of fall off, but at least, or I just, I treasure the moments that we had together and the intimate relationship that we quickly formed, and it looks different every time.
Now, you brought up placenta encapsulation. Do you have to do that at the hospital, or do you carry the placenta out? And what kind of paperwork do you need to fill out to carry a placenta off the grounds?
Yeah, good question. So honestly, it's a little bit loose, a little bit looser than you think. I think there's one. I guess I'll say where I'm located, because that doesn't. It's a big metro area. I'm in Denver. So there's a lot of hospitals and around here, and a lot of options for birthing people. But
and a lot of hippies that want to eat. A lot of hippies that want to eat their placenta.
A lot of it. Honestly, I've actually seen a really big shift, like a paradigm shift in people who are opting in to encapsulate their placenta. I've been seeing a lot of, folks that are like, quote unquote, analytical, like researchy types of people, kind of more like lean towards Western medicine, who are kind of on the wave of trying out this thing. What's the worst that can happen? You stop taking them and that was it. I always tell people, like, if they don't like, or if they're having issues with their capsules, or if they just choose not to take their capsules, like, they can repurpose the remains, if you will, of the placenta, and they can, like, put them in house plants. They can scatter them in, like, a special location. It's just nutrients. It's just going back to the earth. So it's kind of cool. And then there's kind of like a spiritual connection with people who, just in different cultures around the world, there's this significance as to where you place your baby's placenta, like that there's energy there, that they'll come back, that their ancestors will come back to that land. So kind of a big deal. So, I have a lot of doula friends. So one of my close doula friends, she buried her placenta because she wants to lay down roots here for her daughter. So there's just amazing things that you can do with your placenta. You don't have to, like, just hand it over to the hospital.
You get to keep it. Do you bring a cooler? Do you put it on ice?
Oh, sorry, that wasn't really your question. I kind of went on a tangent.
No, I love it. I love everything you're saying, but I also want to know the nitty gritty. Like, walking a placenta, by the way, now that I've seen one in person, this is one of these things, I am not the only person in this world, and especially guys, who are ignorant to how this stuff works. And then you go through it, you go, that placenta is a much more significant.
It's amazing.
It's a much more significant hunk of matter size-wise than I ever anticipated.
Yeah. How big was Cal when he was born?
I forget off the top of my head. He was about,
oh, it's okay.
He was like right 50th percentile of most stuff. He was not huge. He was not tiny.
Okay.
His placenta, I was impressed.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be correlated to, like, a bigger placenta, bigger baby sort of thing, as you can imagine. But yeah, placentas are amazing. Did they do a placenta tour with you, for you guys?
A placenta tour? Can't say I've had the privilege.
Yeah, so that's just where they kind of show all of the structures of the placenta, like the maternal side, the fetal side, the amniotic sac, which is like just the, just all encompassing your baby. And then the umbilical cord, obviously. So they just give a little tour. It's kind of hard to see all the structures sometimes because it's obviously coated in blood. And, but yeah, I think so. As far as, like, how the nitty gritty of it, my clients obviously sign contracts ahead of time. I've learned my lesson there, so I make sure they all sign contracts. They let me know when they're in labor. They let me know when the placenta is ready to be picked up. I go to the hospital with my cooler, or I pick up the cooler from them.
You do? You bring a cooler? It's got ice in it?
Yep. It's got ice packs. It's got all the things. I also, like, the nurses are really good about helping to facilitate, like, packing up the placenta as well. So I always tell my clients, like, just let your care team know your intentions, and then they'll help you package it. Nurses are great with that. So, so I bring it to my home, and then I start the process.
Hold on, before we get that, when you say package it, are we talking like slip it into a Ziploc bag?
Oh.
Bubble wrap?
Yeah, Ziploc bags normally hospitals have got legit biohazard bags. They usually put it in a container. It's not just loose. That would be wild. But yeah, they do the legit thing. There's one hospital around here that requires, like, a specimen release form to be signed, so they're a little bit more strict. But yeah, most hospitals are like, peace out. You're a random person taking this random person's organ. Good luck with it.
So you have it in, like, a little cooler, like many listeners out there. When they go to the beach, they have, like, a little red and white cooler that they put their ice packs and their drinks in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing.
Yep, I just say any old cooler that's floated around in your garage, standard size, like 13 quart or whatever, is sufficient to transport your baby's placenta around.
And then you bring it where? To your own home? Or do you go to like a commercial kitchen facility? Where does one encapsulate a placenta?
That would be the dream, to have like my own processing facility in like an office, but I'm not operating at that level yet. There are some companies like one company in specifically that I'm thinking of that is like a commercial kitchen. She encapsulates placentas for celebrities. People all across the country mail her placenta, or mail their placentas to her. Yeah, it's like a whole thing. Like the Kardashians, I'm pretty sure. Maybe don't quote me on that, but I feel like one of the Kardashians encapsulated their placenta.
And can you ship a placenta USPS? USPS, I'll take a placenta?
That's a good question. I don't know if, like, you know, when you're shipping items, they ask you if you have like batteries or damage or things
hazardous,
that could be damaged.
Anything hazardous or flammable.
I don't know if they ask. Do you got any placentas in here? I mean, I wouldn't trust sending my placenta across the country, but if people choose to trust this woman with their placenta and send it across the country and potentially lose their placenta, go for it.
So you just bring yours to your house?
I bring the placenta to my house, yeah.
And then what? So
I have my own placenta drawer in my fridge, so there's no cross-contamination there. Yeah, do you want me to talk about the process? It's pretty straightforward.
I do. First, I have some questions about the placenta drawer. Can I ask, are you single, dating, married? Where are we at with that?
I'm engaged.
You're engaged?
I've been engaged for like a year.
To whom?
Yeah.
To whom? Can I ask? Just so I use the right pronouns.
Yes, my partner. Yeah. I was about to say his name, but I didn't. Would have bleeped it out. It's fine.
So when you start dating him and he's like now sleeping over at your place sometimes and you guys get Chinese food and he just sticks the leftovers in the fridge, do you have to step in at some point and be like, no, that's the placenta drawer? You don't put the scallion pancakes on the placenta drawer? And let's pause right there, because I'm very aware that I'm just a guy who wings it on the phone, and I'm pretty good at listening and winging it on the phone. That many, many years of improv classes in the late 90s and early 2000s has given me a gift of listening. I don't like to pat myself on the back too often, but I will say the sentence, you don't put the scallion pancakes in the placenta drawer. That's me at my best, everybody, and I know it. Okay, we're going to pause for some commercials. We'll be right back. A podcast for those who like to wonder at the world. Join us for explorations of science, art, history, and more. We're on a quest to find awe and wonder in all nature, human or wild, vast or small. Wonder is defined as a feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful, unexpected, unfamiliar, or inexplicable. And the emerging science around awe and wonder shows that the ability to feel awe is a skill to be developed, like anything else, through practice. The more you look for it, the more you'll have it. The Constant Wonder podcast is here to help you develop a regular practice of wonder. Experiencing awe reduces stress and anxiety levels and has been shown to impact overall well-being. Those who cultivate awe and wonder have greater life satisfaction and experience greater creativity. Each episode of Constant Wonder provides an opportunity to keep learning, keep feeling, reawaken the curiosity you had as a child, tune into our phenomenal world, turn a mundane day into a wondrous one, take a peaceful respite from hectic routines, experience the thrill of a transformative encounter with the good, the true, and the beautiful. Enjoy episodes like Harnessing the Power of the Sun to Cool the Planet, Sprouting a Seed that Survived the Roman Siege, Family Embraces Dad 2.0 After Traumatic Brain Injury, How to Reforest the Desert, Human Echolocation, Dreams and the Deep Mysteries of the Unconscious Mind. Leave feeling rejuvenated with eyes wide open to the wonder all around us and with a deeper conviction that human beings, including you, can accomplish the extraordinary. Listen to Constant Wonder wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to all our advertisers. Now, let's get back to the phone call. You don't put the scallion pancakes on the placenta drawer?
Well, so when we first started dating, like 5.5 years ago. We moved in together 2 weeks before COVID happened. So that was really great timing on our end. But when we first started dating, when we moved in together, I was already a trained doula, but I wasn't doing that full time because there was no way that I could make that work. Living by myself, being single, like, you need to have some sort of financial cushion, I feel like, a lot of the time to get up and running. Like, it takes years to get fully up and running as a doula and making like a decent income.
So much of it's just word of mouth, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of how I've gotten my clients, word of mouth, and I don't know, maybe a little bit off Google. I don't really keep track of like how people find me online. I'm really bad with social media and SEO bullshit. So I just hope that people say nice things about me and refer people to me. But yeah, so when I wanted to pursue this full time, when I started doula work full time, I was making pickles professionally. So, so I asked them if I could like take one. Sorry.
So you were a part-time doula, full-time pickle maker?
At one time, yeah, I was making pickles professionally, and then I'd asked my employers if I could, because I worked with like a ton of dudes, and they were like pretty much all dads. So I would just talk about birth and gross stuff, and they knew that like I was a doula, I was birth obsessed. So anyway, eventually I asked them, because they were very flexible with scheduling. I just asked them if I could take one client a month, and they were on board with that. They were going to be flexible. And then like a month later, they laid me off. And then I was like, okay, well, it's now or never to make this work. And then that's when I started doing placenta encapsulation to just round out my schedule and try to make more money. At first I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. But I love it now, honestly. It's such a weird thing to love, but I love it.
Now, I love all of that. I want to get back on the narrative. So you have a placenta drawer at any given point. What's the most placentas you've had on your placenta drawer at one time?
3.
You've had
or 4.
And is it like the crisper where most of us will put like the zucchinis and the produce? It's the produce crisper. So you've had 3 separate placentas, I'm sure very clearly labeled. You don't ever want to mix up people's placentas.
Yeah, they are very much contained in their own they're contained in their own container. Yeah, that's the reality, I guess, of it. No, it's separated. It's labeled with their name and date of birth and all the things. But sometimes, like, you'll take on a specific amount of placenta clients at a month, and then there is a baby storm, is what we call it in the birth world, where everyone just gives birth all at once. And so that's how I got backed up with 3 to 4 placentas. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just slacking. It was just like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, sorry, Sally. There's like, everyone's in labor, and I got to go bounce around to all these hospitals. And at certain points, I have like 4 or 5 random people's coolers in my hallway, and have to keep track of like everyone's cooler.
And now, when a placenta comes out of the placenta drawer, because a placenta is, and I don't know if I'm exaggerating it in my mind, like I mean, I don't want to be too gross, but like it's like a cut of meat.
Yeah.
How do you turn it into a capsule?
I guess for any of the listeners who have never seen a placenta before, I compare placentas to like beef liver, I guess, is like the closest thing that I can compare it to. It's like highly vascular. It's a filtrative organ. Like, that's, I guess, the closest thing. So, but when I start the process, I rinse off all the excess blood and any clots that are on the placenta. and then I steam it. We steam it to kill off any pathogens that are on the placenta.
You steam the steamed placenta. And is that just like you have, like in the same way that some of us have like a pot with a little grate and you put the broccoli on the top and you steam it? Do you have, I would imagine you have your own cookware just for the placenta processes?
Oh, definitely. Everything is separate. Like, yes, I do encapsulate in my kitchen, but I thoroughly, top to bottom, clean everything beforehand, everything after. Everything is like its own separate equipment. It's either like stainless steel, glass, or disposable. So it can be sanitized and cleaned and reused I do. So
can I ask you a question that you can only answer anonymously?
Okay.
Has there ever been a time where you need to steam some carrots and you're like, God damn it, all the food stuff is dirty in the dishwasher. Maybe should I just steam some? Like, you'd never steam a placenta in the carrot cookware, but have you ever steamed carrots in the placenta cookware where you're like, I'm the one who uses it. I know I'm cleaning it.
Oh, hell no. No, never.
Okay, I had to check.
No, I mean, valid question, but no, never. Like, everything is like in a separate cabinet.
But it's regular cookware. It's like the type of cookware people have. You're steaming it in the same steamer people use at home for vegetables.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so
the double steamer or whatever they're called.
So we steam the placenta, and then you put it in a nice slow cooker or what? A pan? Do we fry it down?
I don't know what that little pot is technically called, but it's the pot, and that has a pot that goes inside of it with the little holes to little steamer pot.
Yeah, no, that part I understand. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then you talk about the next step. Like, what do? From there, we just chop it up into tiny little pieces, and then we dehydrate it.
Do we use a knife or a food processor? How do we chop it up?
Just a pair of like poultry scissors, so I can take them apart and clean them afterwards. So just cut it up into tiny pieces. That's the part where I most feel like a serial killer, and that's where sometimes, like, if I haven't eaten much in the day, like, I'll just get really
hungry,
nauseous and
really
like
hungry.
lightheaded, and
Oh, never mind.
No, if I haven't eaten, I'm really hungry. But sometimes I'll need to take a break and sit down and just like not pass out while I'm chopping up this meaty organ. Because sometimes, like, if they're smaller, they kind of like when you steam it.
Yeah.
When you steam the placenta, it looks like a portobello mushroom. Like, it curls up on the edges and like just looks interesting. So some smaller placentas, like, that steaming process will get rid of all the moisture in it, and then some other big juicy placentas have just so much blood and residual juiciness. I don't know how else to explain it.
Do you pour those down the drain? Are you on a septic? Are you in the city system? What do you do? Do you flush it down the toilet when you have all the extra leftover blood and placenta juice?
Yeah, I mean, I use a colander, so it collects like all the big cloths and tissues, like if there's any amniotic sac, that kind of like stuff, like it's all being caught by the colander, and I'm not putting that down the drain, because I also have this fear that like there will be human tissue linked back to me. I don't know. That's also why I clean my kitchen like top to bottom with, I don't want any blood, like I don't want to be framed for anything. I'm just so paranoid about that.
So with this colander full of leftover bits that aren't being pressed because they're not like pure grade A placenta, your amniotic leftovers and whatnot. So you don't flush those. Do those just go out in the trash?
Yeah, they have to be discarded. Sometimes like people choose not to encapsulate their placenta, but they still want it like processed, so they don't have to like bury it, or like, you know, they don't have to dig 3 feet in the ground to bury their placenta. Like I offer this as an alternative to just like process their placenta, dehydrate it, and then grind it all into a powder so they can spread it. But sorry for that, your question.
I cannot tell you how much I love this telephone call. So you got a bunch of, but when you discard them, do you have to go to like a medical processing facility, or is it just like, nah, the garbage man comes every Monday morning and every Thursday morning? You're trash.
It's trash. So I'm not discarding very much tissue. It's just the amniotic sac and sometimes, most of the time, we'll keep the umbilical cord to also dehydrate that into an umbilical cord keepsake. So that's pretty fun.
But there are times where your trash is like, there's my coffee grinds, there's my avocado rind, there's that woman Susan's amniotic sac, there's the Cheetos wrapper.
Yeah. Usually, that'll be like the last thing that I'm putting in my trash. Then I'll take it out. But yes, it's just the week's worth of trash, and then some random lady's amniotic sac.
So now we've got all that grizzle, we've got all the extraneous parts removed, and then you've got a steamed placenta, and then you said you dehydrate it.
Yep. And then
hang it on a line.
We're taking it
put it under heat?
I have my own dehydrator for the placenta. Yeah, it's like we're making beef jerky, but we're going past the point of jerky. What?
You're affected. No, I think that's a thing you say, and in your life that's normal. But for me, to hear you say that you take a placenta and make it beef jerky, like that's one of those things that's like I'm a comedian, and sometimes I'll be in conversation and I'll just be like, oh, I once performed for 12,000 people, and people are like, what? And I'm like, oh, right, that's weird. That's weird for other people to hear.
Right.
For you to say and then I have a specific device that's a dehydrator that turns the placenta into beef jerky.
Far past that. It's bone dry. It's there's no moisture. It's just, but yeah, I do have my own dehydrator for placentas.
Now, okay, I'm going to put this out here too. And again, remember, you're anonymous. When I'm cooking, let's say I'm grilling up some halloumi cheese or making whatever. There's a little on the cutting board off to the side. I might reach down and just sample it a little bit, have a little piece that's just for me as the cook. You ever sneak a little?
Sorry, what were you?
You ever sneak?
Sorry, did I miss something?
I'm just wondering. There's a lot of protein in there, a lot of nutrients. You ever sneak a little bit?
Oh, no. But I will say my fiance has every time joked. He's like, I'm gonna take one of the capsules to snort.
Snorting placenta.
Or, he jokes that he'll take one of the capsules that's powdered, and he's gonna snort it too. I don't know. Is that weird? That's really weird. He was joking. It's all joke.
It's fine, and it's funny, and it's charming, and it's fascinating. But yeah, it's also weird.
It is weird.
It's also weird that this is just happening in your kitchen.
It's weird.
That's just you're just a person.
There's a lot of there's everything about there are several factors in my life that are very weird.
Yeah, I'm picking up on that. I mean, just the fact that you went from a pickle maker to a placenta dehydrator is reflective of a unique personality with a spirit of adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. I've held lots of jobs, very many jobs.
Is it also weird to say that it feels like being a professional pickle maker somehow there is a logic that gets you from pickles to placenta dehydrator? These are ultimately pickles, both taking foods. Yeah, taking foods that long-term retention of the food. I don't know. There is a logic step there that I get it. So then once it's down into this super dehydrated beef jerky, then you can grind it up into a powder and fit that powder into a capsule?
Yeah, exactly. And And then that's that. Easy. Drop it off back to them.
Bring the cooler back if it was theirs.
Yes. It seems like every time I drop off the capsules, I forget their fucking cooler and I have to drive it back. But It's fine. It's just all mileage I can write off at the end of the year, I guess.
And now, do you get all the capsules? Like, if you have a large placenta, does that mean you wind up with more capsules than someone with a medium-sized placenta? Or is it just everybody gets 2 to 3 capsules and you throw out the rest of the patter?
Yeah, so usually like one placenta yields like 75 to like 150 capsules. But
75 to 150? So you could take these forever. What the hell? There's people who could take these every day for 5 months?
I mean, for like, 2 to 3 months, like take a couple a day. And but I have an encapsulated placenta that was like 350 capsules. So like it was a chonker. It was a big guy.
No, we're not going to call it a chonker.
It was a chonker.
We're not calling.
No, okay.
This image of you bringing home like a giant ham hock of a placenta, calling it a chonker. I'm so sorry, but I can't participate in that. I can't participate in that.
I feel like 50% of the listeners are not listening right now. So like this is.
Are you kidding me? I feel like this is going to be our most popular episode in a very long time. Everyone wants to hear about this chunker.
That would be cool.
No, wait, these capsules, the idea is, because I know, right, like people, I've read up on it, and people who promote consuming placentas. I've also heard that some people will just straight up take it and like cook it in a pan. Is this true?
Yeah. So I've read an article once where this man, he prepared his wife's placenta in a variety of ways. And one of the ways was creating tacos. And he had the taco. And he said it wasn't that bad. So I would never, but to each their own. And I also don't advise anyone eating someone else's placenta. Please don't do that.
Why? Just for social reasons or health reasons or some combination?
I would say health reasons. Just, I don't know the intricacies of bloodborne pathogens after, like we go through the whole encapsulation process. But I feel like if it's like a taco meat, you're preparing the placenta in a taco fashion, that could, you might get something from that. I don't know. I'm no doctor, but
I'm not going to judge, and I'm sure someone could convince me the merits of consuming someone else's placenta. I'm going to say, in a way that's as judgment-free as possible, my initial reaction is just don't be doing that. Don't be eating other people's placentas.
Don't do that.
I could be convinced if people convince me that there's merits to it. I'll be convinced, but my initial gut reaction is just don't be doing that. You don't be eating other people's placentas. Now, and I know that there's famously, right, some animals that, as a rule, new mothers in the animal kingdom, there's some species that just, as a rule, they eat the placenta.
I'm pretty sure it seems like all mammals do that.
Tons
that they
of
eat their placenta. Yeah. I mean, maybe they know intuitively that there's lots of nutrients in there, maybe, but also they don't want to be hunted and preyed upon. And like that placenta smell, that afterbirth smell is strong. So how to get rid of the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so do you have any more questions about the placenta thing, or are you satisfied?
Let's pause there. Do you have any more questions, or are you satisfied? I always have more questions. I'm never satisfied in any area of my life. Anyway, we'll be right back.
Back in the 80s, Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery were budding filmmakers working together at a hip Los Angeles video store called Video Archives.
We didn't have a cash register for 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, they're reuniting to watch the original tapes from the Video Archives collection. Films like Dark Star, Moonraker, and many more. The Video Archives podcast is out now. Find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks to everybody who advertises on the show and allows it to exist. Now let's finish off the phone call.
But yeah, so do you have any more questions about the placenta thing? Or
I mean, so
are you
many.
satisfied?
I mean, I have so many. We can move on if you want. But I have so many. But yeah, so the idea here is there's nutrients, there's vitamins.
A few more.
The idea here is that there's nutrients, there's vitamins, and that a new mom who has just been through something so physically strenuous and ejected so much from her body in that purge of a baby leaving the body as well, that you get some of that back, and that it's a healthy thing to get some of those nutrients back into your system. That's the basic idea here.
Yeah, basic idea. And then as well as like after you give birth, that hormonal drop off is huge. Like the biggest hormonal shift in that a human can experience. So there's a lot of hormones that are found in the placenta that we are reintroducing back to the mother. So that can help with like milk supply. It can help with like balancing sleep. It can help with or just helping with healing speeds. Lots of benefits. But yeah, a lot of it's the hormones. There's obviously a ton of iron in the placenta, so that can help combat postpartum anemia. But really one of like the biggest reasons that I find people are encapsulating their placenta is to ultimately like reduce the chances of developing or having their symptoms be worse. But yeah, it decreases your risk of developing like postpartum mood disorders, so like depression and anxiety, OCD. So it's pretty wonderful there.
Well done. What a service you provide. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like a relevant call right now. There's just this big news story going around about a woman who was, in an explosion, I think. And she, her body was covered in like 80% of burns, but her face was like completely unrecognizable. Then they did this procedure where they placed placenta tissue on her face, and her face completely regenerated, and her face looks exactly like it did before. Who's the person that's like, I'm going to just make a judgment call here. Let's just throw a little placenta on there, see what happens. And I'm not trying to be facetious about this person's horrific experience, but just to hear like somebody was like, I think what we got to do is just like slam that most affected areas with placenta. Yeah. But it worked.
Well, it worked, and the placenta has a ton of stem cells. So one of my past clients, she actually like last night or something, she told me a story about, she just encouraged me to talk with my clients about the option of placenta donation. And so one of my client's friends, she had an accident, and she had a placenta help regenerate her toes. Like her toes got chopped off, and the placenta helped regenerate.
Wait, what are you
that
talking
tissue.
about? Your toes get chopped off if you eat, or they rub placenta on it and toes grew back?
I have no idea how they did this.
And you didn't ask any follow-up questions? How did her toes? What are you talking about? Her toes got chopped off. What?
I was going to ask the whole story about her friend, but her whole premise was you should talk to your clients about this amazing option of donating their placenta for science and to help people who have injuries. Just to help them regenerate their body.
Well,
the placentas are amazing.
I just want you to know, I just Googled the phrase toes chopped off placenta. So now I'm on a lot of weird lists. Now a lot of people are probably keeping their eye on me because I'm Googling weird stuff because of you.
again, don't quote me if that actually happened, but you should definitely Google the woman who had her face regenerated by the placenta.
That one I did.
Just
I mean, it
amazing.
comes up as a New York Times article from 2 weeks ago. It's for real.
Yep. Very recent. So very cool. This is a very random side note, but in one of your episodes from a while ago, you recommended Bob Dylan to one of the callers.
Oh, that was a long time ago. That Bob Dylan song was rad, though.
It's great. So I looked him up, fell in love, told my fiance, listen to these guys. Chris Gethard recommended them. They're amazing. And we just saw them for the second time, like a couple of weeks ago, and they're amazing if you have not seen them live yet.
And this is, of course, Bob Dylan, not Dylan. If there's anybody listening going like,
Dylan.
yeah, we know Bob Dylan's good. People have known since the 60s. You know, there's a British punk artist, right? I think British. Bob Dylan with a V.
Yeah.
Who has some...
Yes, we'll play on Bob Dylan, I believe. But I'm pretty sure they're both named Bobby. They're like cousins, both named Bobby or something. And they are charming and
Right. Bob Dylan is
amazing.
not a person. Bob
And
Dylan is a group. Yes, a duo.
it's a duo. It's like a punk rap duo from England. And they are amazing. So thank you for that recommendation so long
Happy
ago.
to help. It reminds me that I need to go listen to some more Bob Dylan stuff because it's been a while.
Their new album, I don't remember what it's called. I'm bad at remembering those things, but it's really good. If you haven't listened to it yet, I
Looks
love
like there's
it.
one called Humble as the Sun that just came out.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah.
I love it. Now,
Yeah.
when you're not doing placenta doulaing, are you also like a birth companion doula? You said a little bit of a post-birth doula. Is it mostly the placenta, though?
Yeah. I would say it's a pretty good balance of all the things. So I take about like 2 to 3 births a month, and then I work with some postpartum families doing shifts with them, and then I take placentas, and that's all that I do. No, nothing else, just that.
What does that mean?
So say again.
It sounded like you said, that's all I do, nothing else, just that, which sounded, it sounded like you were about to reveal some other things you did, and then in your head went, don't say that out loud, and then said instead, that's all I do, just that. Is my instinct correct on that? What the hell is happening now?
Looking back at how that delivery was, I can see why you thought that.
I am going to need
But
some
no,
people to
that's
start
truly all
isolating
that I
that moment, because you were like, so I do this, I do a couple births a month, I do a lot of the placenta stuff, I do a little bit with families post, and then I also, that's it also, actually that's all I do. No follow-ups, please. It sounds like you're doing something really weird and bad.
No, I oh God, now I'm just like digging the hole. I swear, that's it. That's all I do.
It sounds
maybe the
maybe the what? Maybe the what?
The only other thing that I do is sometimes I dabble in photography. So like I photograph my births or
You
my
mentioned this.
my clients.
I just want you to know, though,
What's that?
your reaction to that makes it sound like even more of a cover-up, just so you know. And I want everyone listening, I want predictions on what the cover-up is, because it sounds like you do some other stuff you don't want us to know about, and I want people to actively speculate in a way that makes you, puts the squeeze on you.
That would be amazing, but honestly, it's nothing. There's nothing.
Every time you say it, I'm only more thoroughly convinced that you're up to something. And like, I was about to say, like, I'm almost convinced you're up to something weird, but like, the stuff you've already admitted to, like, what would that be by your standards, you know?
I have nothing to hide. I've said it all. I'm probably on a a watch list now because of like all of the human tissues that come in and out of my apartment.
That's
I wonder if
probably the most concerning part, actually. That's probably the part you could actually get in trouble for, is if people realized you were throwing out
They're like,
human tissue in the garbage on
and
a regular basis.
I wonder if my neighbors are like, dude, she lives in the middle of the night. She leaves all day, every day. She's like always popping in and out with coolers. Sometimes she'll leave at like 6:30 to go to like morning postpartum shifts and stuff. She's like, what does this woman do? And what is she hiding?
It has Dexter vibes. It has vibes that you're like a serial killer who only hunts serial killers.
It does. No, I get that. I totally do. You have to be a specific kind of person. And I guess I am that person.
Can I also ask, just on a broad level, and I know it's awkward to ask about money stuff, how much do you make for encapsulating a placenta? What's the range?
So I'd say the going rate around here is like $250 to $350.
That's pretty reasonable for everything. You travel there, carry it in the cooler.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up space in your fridge, where most of us store things like, food, drinks. And then you have dedicated equipment.
Food.
You put in the hours on sanitizing all the equipment. You get the capsules back to them. Yeah, that's, I got to say, pretty reasonable for the service provided.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I think my favorite part about doing or like working with placentas is I make placenta prints. So I use like food coloring. Obviously, it has to be food safe. And I paint the placenta, and it comes out with these really pretty watercolor tree of life prints. And then like my signature things that I do is I go through after I've done the print, of course, and I add like gold vessels into the print. So it just becomes this, I don't know, treasure piece that people hang up in like their baby's nursery. Or like my first ever birth client, she hung their placenta print up in their living room. They still have it up.
And is this an additional fee on top of the $250 to $350?
It actually isn't. And I put a lot of love and care. I charge $275, and I think I need to up my rates, but this is not the time and place to discuss that. But I put a lot of love and care, and it comes standard in all my packages. Yeah. And
this is at what step is this? Post dehydration, pre? When do you do the print?
So after I like rinse off the placenta, I thoroughly dry off any blood or moisture on the placenta. So it just becomes this organ that is not leaking blood anymore somehow. And then I paint the placenta with the food coloring, and then do a transfer print.
Man, that's a lot of bang for the buck. $275, you get to eat your placenta, and you get a painting made from the placenta. That's a lot of bang for the buck. Yeah, it's pretty
cool. I know, yeah. But someday. And mostly it's just like, I have to update my website, and I don't want to do that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, this is wild. This is wild.
I didn't realize. I mean, I should have known that like the hook that this topic would have been a whole conversation. I should have known.
Well, what else did you want to talk about? We got 5 minutes left.
It's too heavy. It's too heavy.
For 5 minutes?
Yeah, I guess the other thing I told Andrea was earlier this year, I was in inpatient, or like I was hospitalized for a bipolar psychosis episode. So that was like a whole freaking thing. But again, with 5 minutes, maybe we'll just do a follow-up in a few years. I don't know.
I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear how you're feeling now.
Oh, so much better. I was really going through it. So like kind of like a short version is like I did acid for the first time last April, and that kind of broke me mentally.
I've always been so scared. People say it's so great and mind opening and all this, but I've always been so scared.
It was great. Some aspects were great. Had never heard of an ego death before, but I think that's what happened. So like my brother-in-law, he gave me the drugs and he was like, this is your first time. This is good. But I told him all that I experienced, like I passed out. It was a whole thing. And I told him everything that I saw like on my trip and like as I was passing out. And he was like, that sounds like an ego death. You should Google that. And I sure did. And it's a whole rabbit hole you could fall down. But anyway, so I think that whole experience kind of like just broke something in mentally where it kind of induced like all those bipolar symptoms. Like I was very manic for several months, and then that depression for several months, and then tried to go to my care team and say, I think I have bipolar disorder. I'm showing symptoms. Like it took a lot for me to be like, to come to them. Anyway, so they were very dismissive and I was taking like Adderall for my ADHD and I knew that was bad for mania. So I was like, I think I'm just on the wrong medication. Something is not right. And then it finally got to the point of like psychosis. And then I was hospitalized. And then after I came out, they were like, oh yeah, I guess you did have bipolar disorder. They never really addressed it or anything. They just went along with like the prescriptions that I got inpatient and continued that. But basically, yeah, the new medications that I'm on, like antipsychotics and mood stabilizers, have been life-changing. And I just can't believe like the place that I was at, like at the beginning of this year. I just feel like so much more like myself, which is amazing. So yeah, that was the other thing, but another day, another time.
Well, I'm just glad you're doing better. I'm glad you got help. I'm sorry that you went through it. I'm sorry. It's, it sounds like things happened fast and got out of control. It sounds scary. And I'm glad you're doing better, feeling better.
Me too. I mean, to be honest, like I never thought that would ever happen to me. Like my dad is bipolar and he's really gone through it. So I was like, that'll never be me. And then life happens and it is you.
That's, I gotta say, for us to go like 55 minutes of a delightful, laugh-filled conversation about placentas, and then to hear the cold, stark reality of the fragility of the human mind at the end, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. It's just reality. And I think that's like, I don't know, something that people should be aware of. If they're going to take acid, you might trigger your bipolar. Just so you know. If you didn't know you had it, you'll find out maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't wish it on anybody.
So you've never done acid?
I've never done acid, no. I always had a feeling that with my mental fragility, it was probably not the smartest idea for me.
Yeah, that's smart. I wish I had considered that, but had I known what would have happened, I obviously would have never. But hey, at least I can say I did acid now.
Yeah.
Was it worth it? No.
Our time is wrapping up. We have 30 seconds left. I want to thank you so much. This conversation was delightful and then momentarily towards the end very concerning, but I'm glad you're okay. Any closing words you want to say?
Sorry about that.
All good. You want any closing words for the people on the free feed before we take it behind the paywall?
Yeah, do something for yourself today. Take a moment for yourself and remember to breathe. As that's the doula in me, I guess. Yeah, just do something nice to yourself today.
I love that. And for anybody who's listening who wants more with this delightful caller, beautifulanonymous.com, you can sign up. You get extra time with every single caller. You get episodes ad-free. If you're up that top tier, there's even more stuff. But that being said, thanks to everybody who's been listening for free. And now it's just those of us behind the paywall. Caller, I can't thank you enough. That one, we got to it. We got to it quickly. We got into the nitty gritty. I got to ask you a lot of the weird questions that popped into my brain immediately. And that ranks as one of my favorite calls. Thank you for calling. And thank you to our producer, the High Priestess, Andrea Quinn. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. If you want to know more about me, including if I have any dates out on the road, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. That's the best place to check. And hey, we've got a voicemail line, 973-306-4676. We are on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. We also have our Facebook community, which is Beautiful Anonymous, the community. Thanks so much, everybody. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions.
Could you believe I actually just probably last week signed up for, is it called Rotary? Like whatever your subscription thing is, I signed up for it finally.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that.
Of course. I was like, if I don't contribute to your goal and at least try to get that bonus, I would never forgive myself.
That's very kind of you. I don't think I'm getting the bonus. I would have to more than double the amount of signups in a pretty short period of time. And it's okay though, but here's the thing.
Maybe I should have done the guilt trip at the top of the call with the free call.
I was just going to say, like, it's very nice that you're now giving this pitch, but it would have been more effective. You did it right after we went behind the paywall with all the people who are already on board. But that being said, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, no,
glad to pitch in. Just a couple bucks. It's not that bad.
Absolutely. A stellar pitch about a service that exclusively delivered to only people who have already signed up for the service. But that being said, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome for that. You're welcome.
Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.